thank our friends at Sunglow Feed for sponsoring all of the junior market back tag members at the 2019 National Western. Sunglow, feed your potential.
tough decisions here in the second class. I think we've got two gates up here. When they walked in, they demanded your attention and you went and handled them. They again demanded your attention, and you get them up here next to each other and you put them together. They do have their differences. There's some subtle differences between them, but there's a foundation. We just need a little more bone in him, I guess, to make him ideal. But I think there's plenty of bone in there for him to win the class with all the other things he puts together. This next one coming at you really compliments him and really mirrors him as far as that rib shape with that last rib. Really bold and wide at that last rib. Another one that's level out through that hip. When I compare him to the goats on either side of him, he's not quite as nice in his neck, shoulders, cage transition. I'd like to see him transition there a little better when I put him on the move. He's not as good looking as the one that's directly behind him. He's a little longer bodied, and to me he's better in his last rib, and he's better as far as his total dimension to his body than the one we put in third. The one in third's the one you like to watch pick him up and set him down. When he's on the walk, when he walked in, I thought he'd won it, to be honest with you. The look just got me. He's going to be good on the loose. He's good with their handling. Really good on the move. He's big boned. He's big footed. Really covers his track nicely. One that meets you with a real stand-up wrap. But when we get to comparing him to the two in front of him, he's not as big in his groin, especially at the last rib. He's not as deep in his groin edges. He doesn't have quite, when we put him on the park and we stand him, doesn't have quite as much muscle down that top. Doesn't have quite as much width in that cage and in that middle part of his body as the two in front of him. We love the way this one moves. We give him just a little more dimension there in that rib, give him a little more dimension in that loin, and he wins the class easy. We get our next one, and one that's really attractive and patterns nice from the side. We appreciate that about it. Another one that's a little refined. We could use some more bone on this one. One that handles real nice as far as cutability is concerned. We just don't have quite as much power when we come out through that loin and through the hip. We round out our top five with one that I really like the way he sets him up and puts him down. He gets just a little off in his hip when we put him in motion. He's not as bold in that loin. He's not as bold in that rib as the two or three in front of him or four in front of him. Therefore, today he's going to be fifth, but a really nice one. Again, I talked to the youth on the outside about why they placed theirs where they did. We have some that maybe have some transitions or skeleton problems. We have some that maybe don't have quite the muscle. Some that are a little bit more conditioned than I'd like for this weight, but a really, really nice class. Let's give these kids a round of applause for their efforts in class 2.
Results of Class 2 lightweight market goats. In 8th place, Leandra Melgaza from Goza from Lamar, Colorado. In 7th place, Will Deemer from Trinidad, Colorado. In 6th place, Romero Velasco, Hobbs, New Mexico. In 5th place, Cooper Lemon, Vernon, Texas. 4th place goes to Kayleen Stearns from Edgemont, South Dakota. 3rd place, Anna Vetter from Bennett, Colorado. 2nd place, Connor Clark, Southwest Truck and Trailer Incorporated, Albany, Texas. And 1st place went to Paige Pence, New Carlisle, Ohio. Next in the ring is Class 3 lightweight market goats, 83 to 85 pounds. Richard Saunders says, with enough time and money, anybody can build a building. The question is, how much more can we provide? Saunders Construction is one of Colorado's largest commercial contractors and is proud to present the National Western Premier Exhibitors Program. As a manufacturer of premium quality livestock show supplies, Weaver Leather Livestock is a proud sponsor of the 2019 National Western Stock Show. Be sure to stop by ProFit Show Supply, our Weaver Leather Livestock dealer, on the hill and in the stadium arena. Weaver wishes all exhibitors good luck at the show. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to announce a new tradition that is starting at the National Western Junior Market Goat Show. Tomorrow, Thursday, January 17th, the Grand and Reserve Grand Champion goats will go on display at the prestigious Denver Athletic Club in downtown Denver. Similar to how the champion steers get displayed at the Brown Palace, the National Western Stock Show and the Denver Athletic Club look forward to this new tradition and creating Denver history together. That's exciting, folks, and it's a huge win for the goat program, goat show here at the National Western.
Goats up here in the top 5, but I think when you look at them, I wouldn't disagree with you if you move some around in one way or another. I don't have one that I really could just feel like I can hang my hat on and say this is the one in this class. In saying that, I've got a really good set of high-quality goats that have a lot of good carcass attributes and a lot of good things about them. We're going to start off the one that, to me, that when you look at form, function, when you look at the way this one's put together, I think he's the best as far as his levelness down his top, his balance from the side. He's really big in his rib and rack, really big in his loin. One that we could make a little bit neater, especially when we compare him to the one in second as far as the way his neck comes out of his shoulder and maybe his chest floor. But he's really wide coming at you, wide going away from you. Tremendous shape down the top. I think he's leveler and neater out through his hip than the one in second. I think he's a little bit bolder in his rib. I think he's a little bit wider in his body. The one in second's the extended one, the one you like the neck, you like that chest floor and the shallowness of it. When you get to your hands on this one, He progressively gets wider back to his loin. However, when you get to his pin set, he's not as wide as the goats on either side of him. He doesn't have quite the transition in that hip that I'd like to see in comparison to the goat in front of him. I'd like to level those jump muscles out a little bit, widen that pin out. In saying that, when I watch him move, he moves with some width and some to his lower skeleton. For being made like that, I just need to have a little more expression of muscle in that leg. I need to level him out in that hip and give him just a little more rib shape in comparison to the one that wins. The one in third does have that rib shape, does have that dimension, does have that body. However, one that especially in motion gets a little lower fronted, one that's a little bit softer as far as touch is concerned. I'd like to make him just a little bit neater, especially in that lower rib. As far as that touch is concerned, one that's got a lot of width, a lot of muscle, I need to extend him on out to make him move up any more also and clean that body wall up. When we look at our third place, one that just transitions a little rough to me down the top. I need to smooth this one out completely down his top. I probably like his lower 1/3 of his rib better than the one in second. I like the width of the hip. I like the width of the loin and the transition down the top of the one in third better than this one in fourth. The one in fourth really comes at you wide. One that will hang a tremendous carcass, probably a little bit better as far as cutability than the one that precedes him. But one that when we get him and look at him on the move, I need this one to blend together better from front to rear. We end up with a goat that's got a tremendous shape down his top, really a carcass type goat, but when we look at him from the side, he doesn't balance out quite as well. He's a little taller than he is long. I'd like to make him a little longer bodied, make him a little bit more length in his neck and front end to be able to compete with those. But a big bone, stout made one that has a lot of muscle, we just need more length of body. Again, I talked to these kids on down about their goats. We changed some balance issues, some hip issues, some muscle issues, but really a nice set. These kids have done a good job up to this point of feeding them and getting them ready. We don't have anything over there that's too fat. Everything's good as far as its hide's concerned and the way it handles. Some of them just need more balance, maybe need a little more muscle, maybe have some skeletal issues, but a really, really good class in this third class. Let's give these kids a round of applause for the job that they've done.
Thank you, sir. Results of Class 3. In 8th place, Will Dimer, Trinidad, Colorado. In 7th place, Caitlin Robinson, Colorado Springs, Colorado. 6th place goes to Paisley Clark, Albany, Texas. 5th place, TJ Rice, Fort Collins, Colorado. 4th place, Anna Vetter, Bennett, Colorado. 3rd place, Paige Pence, New Carlisle, Ohio. 2nd place goes to Jonah Stottlemyre from Luther, Oklahoma. And the winner of Class 3 is Luke Tucker from Santo, Texas. Entering the ring at this time is Class 4 of the lightweight junior market goats, 86 to 89 pounds. Upon completion of this class, first and seconds of each of the weight divisions will report back for division champ. Superior Farms is proud to help sponsor the National Western Stock Show. We invite you to see more about how we help family farms. See the video at superiorfarms.com. The National Western owes a big thank you to our friends at Purina for sponsoring all of the webcasting and our renowned Media Scholar program. You can watch every show live at nationalwestern.com. Purina, feed greatness. Sullivan Supply Stock Show University is trusted by champions nationwide. Thanks to them, all of the livestock shows are webcasted live through nationalwestern.com, and they sponsor our Livestock Media Scholar program. Sullivan Supply, the innovative leader in livestock grooming supplies.
last class, again, we're going to start off with one that's really extended in that body, extended in that front end, but somewhat deceptive as far as when you look at him from the side, because you'd think one like that wouldn't handle like he does or have the width that he does, but you get over top of this one, he is really wide and clean in those loin edges, really good out through that hip, has a tremendous amount of rib shape. He's bigger in his rib right behind his shoulder in that forerib than the one in second. I like the way he moves around the ring just a little bit better than the one in second as far as picking them up and putting them down. One that just really has a lot of good attributes and comes to the top nicely with those things. We look at our second place, and I think he follows him as far as pattern and kind. One that really extended in the front, one that really looks nice when we park him, one that maybe not quite as good on the move, but still holds that balance and symmetry together. Just maybe like to see him a little better on his hind two. We get this one and compare him to the goats on either side of him. He's not quite as big right behind his blade and in that rib, but is really good out through that loin and through that hip, and we appreciate them. One that probably has a little more bone than the one that starts, one that maybe has just a tad more foot size, but we need to have more rib shape. We need to have just a little more dimension to that center portion of the body to be able to compete with the one that wins. Kind of your decision, or my decision to me, was third and fourth. Third, I really like the way this guy handles down his top as far as just coming at you with a lot of muscle and a lot of shape. One that shortens up in his body a little bit. We'd like to change his blade to his forerib, especially in that middle and lower part of his body. One that's maybe not quite as long-bodied in level as the two that start off. But when we look at the amount of muscle, he has a tremendous amount of muscle. One that comes at you wide. I think he beats the one in second just strictly by walking away. He walks away a little truer and nicer from his hock to the ground. He's a little more bold right there in the center portion of his body. This one in fourth, I thought, would be one that could possibly win the class when I first handled him. His handling aspect is tremendous as far as his carcass is concerned. Really meets your hand with a lot of touch and tone. Really got a lot of shape down that top. He doesn't balance out quite as well, wants to just not blend as well from that shoulder to rib. When I put this one on the move, I've just got to widen that bottom part of his skeleton, especially the hind legs. He gets just a little narrower tracking going away from me. When he comes at me, he's not as wide as he looks like he'd be. He's deceptive, because when you get over the top of this guy and you look at the top third of his skeleton, you would think that one was really wide underneath. And when you get behind him and you get in front of him, he's not as wide made when you look at the bottom part of that skeleton. Next one moves up a little bit, one that has a really good touch and tone, one that just doesn't balance out quite as well as our top four. It's a little more refined, but we appreciate that touch and tone. One that's big in his loin especially. We need to give him a little more width in those pins. We need to balance him out a little more on the side. Again, I talked to the youth on the outside about their project and what they've done so far. Really, really tremendous set in this class. Let's give all these kids a round of applause for a nice job.
Results of Class 4. In 8th place, Lucinda Mares, Julesburg, Colorado. In 7th place, Loudon Block, Yuma, Colorado. In 6th place, Truman Thomas Belcher, Texaco, New Mexico. In 5th place, Jared Stearns, Edgemont, South Dakota. In 4th place, Isaac Beal, Beal Showgoats, Conover, Ohio. In 3rd place, Sadie Heap, Frederick, Oklahoma. 2nd place goes to J. Lee Spradlin, Granfield, Oklahoma. And the winner of Class 4 is Jonah Stottlemyre, Luther, Oklahoma. Entering the ring is the 1st and 2nd place winners of Class 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the lightweight division. And this will be for the selection of the champion and reserve champion lightweight market goat. If you are looking for that edge in the show ring, consider the new Blue Ribbon Super Blocking Blade from Andis. Designed for competition with cattle fitting expert Kirk Steerwalt, and Andis Blue Ribbon Super Blocking Blade delivers a new level of performance with improved hair feed and clean show-stopping lines. Stop by your authorized Andis dealer and see it today.
Well, a really nice lightweight division out here. Let's give all these kids and all the youth that participated in this lightweight division a round of applause for a really nice job and a really nice set. A couple of classes maybe didn't come together quite as well to me as far as fitting maybe just a perfect goat or a picture of the goat that I'm looking for, but I think when you look at them out here and when you handle them out here, they all have some really good things about them and sure meet your hand nicely, and some of them probably meet your eye just a little bit better when you look at extension and you look at the way they're made. When you put them in motion, I think they all cover their track nice, and they all have got a really nice build to their body and a nice foundation. We've got some differences maybe in bone and foot size, but I think when you handle them and you really get back and look at them, really a high-quality set of goats out here for our champion lightweight. When we look at them and analyze them, to me, it comes down to real close between 2 and possibly 3 when you really start handling them and step back and looking at them and looking at that combination. To me, there's one that on the move just beats all of them as far as moving around and just covering the track and maintaining that look in the front end that I'm looking for, maintaining that balance and symmetry. I think you let this one loose, and it doesn't matter where you see him. He looks good. I think there's one that's right behind him to me that is just maybe a little more powerful, has a little more to him, but maybe not quite as big bone, not quite as big footed, not quite as much to him, and not quite the look on the walk when you really start analyzing those things, those little things that matter. In this time, I'm going to go shake the hand of your individual with your champion in reserve of your lightweight division. Again, it's been very competitive. I think a really nice set. There's 2 that I think just fit in my hand and eye just a little bit better. I'll shake the hand of those individuals, and we'll go on to the next class. Again, these kids have done an excellent, excellent job. Let's give them a round of applause for their efforts.
The division, the lightweight division reserve champion is Paige Pence, 7. Yes, your reserve champion in the lightweight division goes to Paige Pence, and your champion goes to Anna Vetter. Next in the ring is Class 5 of the medium weight market goats. John Deere is the official agricultural and turf equipment provider of the National Western Stock Show. Visit your local John Deere dealer for great deals now, and remember, nothing runs like a Deere. Murdoch's can take care of all your needs in one stop. From jeans and boots to feed and fencing, hardware and tack, and so much more. Find a store near you at murdochs.com.
For a really nice class, we're going to start off with one that he captivates your attention when he walks in the ring. He's really wide made. He comes at you wide. He goes away from you wide. He holds his skeleton together really nicely on the move. He's got a lot of balance and symmetry, and you get over top of him, and this one comes and meets your hand with a whole lot of muscle, a whole lot of width, all the way down that top, gets progressively wider, balances out nice, just wins the class nicely on those attributes. I think it gets close between second and third. We've kind of got a little bit of a difference in these. I think that when we look at our second place one, I think he's a little cooler about his front end. I think he blends together in his neck, shoulder, and his transition to his forerib. He's really nice as far as his rib shape and loin shape. I'm not going to tell you he's as wide and big as the one in third, but I think he's wide enough there. He progressively gets back. He's got enough bone and enough foot size, one that has a nice leg in him. He's not as big-legged as the goats on either side of him, but he's a little bit neater about his transitions in his front. This one in third, as Mark Hogue used to say, we want to mix a weightlifter with a supermodel, and this one's the weightlifter, and the other one had more of the supermodel look. But when you look at him, this one, we just need to get just a tad round on both ends. He's got so much muscle down his top. He's so wide coming at you. He's big-footed, big bone. We just need to clean him up in that front end a little bit, maybe level and balance him out just a tad when we look at that front shoulder and front end in comparison to rear flank and stifle, smooth him up a little bit. But one that you can't get away from getting up here into this deal with that kind of forearm and that kind of width and that kind of muscling in him. The next one, much like him as far as muscles concerned, not quite as big-footed and big-boned. I'd like to see this one tie better between that blade and that forerib. He gets just a little bit soft there, not quite as comfortable in that transition, not quite as neat out through his hip as the one in second, and therefore follows third. I think one that handles real nice as far as touch and tone. Just need to give him a little bit more smoother transitions throughout his body and skeleton. When we look at the next one, another one that's big boned, big footed, has some width. Never had that happen. Sorry, I'm going to collect myself a little bit. Little girls crying kind of get to old guys. This next one, again, big-footed, big-boned, one that you really appreciate the body of this guy. Doesn't transition from that loin to that hip very good. Doesn't have quite the muscle tone and quite doesn't meet your hand with as much touch as the ones above it, but one you appreciate for that width of body, that skeleton, that extra mass and extra bone and foundation that this one has. Just need to give him a little more touch and tone, a little more expression of muscle. Again, a really good set of goats all the way through. I've talked to these kids about the balance aspect, the muscle aspect, what we changed about them individually and compared to what's above them. Really nice set again. Let's give these kids a round of applause for a nice job.
Results of Class 5. In 8th place, McKendra Torres from Lamar, Colorado. 7th place, Cooper Sanchez, Bear River, Wyoming. In 5th place, Jaylee Spradlin, Granfield, Oklahoma. In 5th place, Trinity Bolger, Craig, Colorado. In 6th place, Jaylee Spradlin, Granfield, Oklahoma. 5th place, Trinity Bolger, Craig, Colorado. 4th place, J.C. Collins, Kingsville, Texas. In 3rd place, Colt Walker, Frederick, Oklahoma. 2nd place, Leandra Melgoza from Lamar, Colorado. And the winner of Class 5 is Hayden Schroeder of Zephyr, Texas. Now in is class number 6 of the medium weight division. Class number 6 of the medium weights. Richard Saunders said, with enough time and money, anybody can build a building. The question is, how much more can we provide? Saunders Construction is one of Colorado's largest commercial contractors and is proud to present the National Western Premier Exhibitor Program. As a manufacturer of premium quality livestock show supplies, Weaver Leather Livestock is a proud sponsor of the 2019 National Western Stock Show. Be sure to stop by ProFit Show Supply, our Weaver Leather Livestock dealer, on the hill and in the stadium arena. Weaver wishes all exhibitors good luck at the show.
Well, another really nice class. We're going to start off with one that is really big in that rib and rack, really bold out through that top, tremendous at that last rib, holds that width and maintains its back through that hip. One that wants to get overdrive just a tad bit at times and makes him look not as quite as good when we park him. But when we put this one in motion and when we first get him parked and handle him, just wins the class nicely on being one that comes at you wide, goes away from you wide, balances nice, has a lot of shape and rib to him, a lot of loin shape, and he's the biggest in those areas of anything in the top 5. I guess if we were to compare him to Ideal when we put him on the move, we could stick that neck back just and put it just a little bit further back on the top of his shoulder, but that's getting real picky on one that has a lot of good things about him. I think it's close between second and third. I had them both ways in my mind. This one in second, when you go to handle it, I think it handles more like the one that wins the class as far as touch and tone and as far as freshness. Really big in that loin, really nice touched over the rib. We appreciate this one as far as his handling characteristics all the way down his top. He's not quite as wide as the goat that wins. He's not quite as balanced when we look at that rear flank relationship as the one that's in third. But when we put everything together and we look at him from the side, she gets him parked. We really appreciate that handle. We appreciate that tone. One that looks good enough, but it handles really, really nice and handles just like the one that's in first, but not quite as much boldness to him. The one in third, one that's a little bit harder to evaluate, one that's got just a little more hair on him. When he walks, sometimes he wants to get his head down. But when you get over top of this guy, he progressively gets wider. We appreciate that shape and that levelness down to his hip. One that has some bone and some foot size. One that balances nice from the side. As I said earlier, he balances probably a little bit better than the one in second when we look at that forearm to stifle, front flank to rear flank, that underline. I like him just a tad better. But when I go to handle him, he's a little bit softer in his touch. He doesn't handle with quite the freshness and uniqueness that the first two do. This next one handles real nice as far as touch and tone. However, he just gets out-horsed when we get back into that loin. He's not as big in his loin, not as big out his hip. Really an attractive, good patterned one from the side. We just need to give him more body. And we round out with one that's got a really nice rack shape to him. We appreciate the leg muscle this one has. He doesn't transition from front to rear quite as well. I'd like to change him in that shoulder a little bit. He's a little forward, not quite as comfortable in his shoulder to forerib transition. Really nice set on down. Again, we talk to these kids about the skeletal differences, the muscle differences. Some of them maybe carrying a little more condition, a little thicker body walled, but really a nice set. Let's give them a round of applause for the job they've done in this class.
Results of Class 6. In 8th place, Rachel Rolando, Craig, Colorado. In 7th place, Seth Hilfiker, Holtville, California. In 6th place, Lindsay Meckelberg, Eckley, Colorado. In 5th place, Paige Romza, Casper, Wyoming. 4th place, Kara Riffle, Westmoreland, Kansas. 3rd place is Kendall Birch, Casper, Wyoming. 2nd goes to Riley Stewart from Baldwin City, Kansas. And the winner of Class 6 is Shandy Treadwell from Deming, New Mexico. Next in is Class 7, medium weight market goats. Class 7 entering the ring. Superior Farms American lamb is delicious and easy to cook. Visit superiorfarms.com for great recipes and ask for American lamb at your favorite restaurant. The National Western would like to thank our friends at Sunglow Feeds for sponsoring all of the junior market back tag numbers at the 2019 National Western. Sunglow, feed your potential. We owe a big thank you to our friends at Purina for sponsoring all of the webcasting and our renowned Media Scholar program. You can watch every show live at nationalwestern.com. Purina, feed greatness. Last call for Class 8. Last call, Class 8.
I don't want to take anything away from third, fourth, and fifth, but when we got these, when these first two come in the ring, man, you draw your eyes right to them, and then you go to handle them, and they were on little different ends of the spectrum as far as one was over here and one's here, and you have to just kind of shake your head and get your thoughts together, because you got to quit thinking about those two to place everything else and do everybody else a good job and make sure you're placing them in. But in your mind, you're thinking, I can't wait to get these two next to each other, and it didn't disappoint me when I did. I think both these goats have got some excellent qualities about them. I think they're very similar in some ways, and then there's some minute differences. But I think when you handle them, you'd be impressed with the top shape, the loin shape, the hip shape, the leg shape, the tremendous amount of muscle, the carcass attributes. They both tone and touch really nice. Where we start getting the differences is when we put them in motion, I think. We start looking at some things, and there's some things I'd change about each one of them. The one that wins it, to me, he's a little truer and wider when he comes away from you. He's straighter from the hock to the ground. He's wider from the hock to the ground. When he goes away from me, he prances around the ring. Just head up, neck in the right place, just prances around the ring. Really looks good when he moves. Taking nothing away from the second, because the second place, same way. He just demands your attention, captivates you. You just watch him and you love him. But when you get back behind and you get a 3/4 and you look at him when he's parked and you look at him when he's on the move, he's not quite as naturally wide from that hock to the ground is the one that wins it. I think when you handle the racks, I'd probably give the advantage to the one in second, being just a little bit more rack shape, really big in that rib and rack, tremendous there. I give the advantage to the one in first, being bigger and longer and fuller through that loin. I like the one in first, the way he transitions from his loin to his hip better. I like the shape of the hip in the one in second better. And so when you go back and forth on those things and forth on those things, and you look, to me, when it come down to it at the end, it was more about the feet and legs hitting back from behind, the truer and square from behind. I think that the handle's close. I think the one in first is just a little shallower about his body and his front end, a little bit cleaner about his chest floor than the one in second. But I think they're close in all those attributes. You can go either way with them when you talk about those things, and when you look at those things, again, the shallowness of body, the extra loin, the feet on the ground, especially when we look at him from behind, is what makes this one be first. This one in second, as I said, great big rib and rack, great big middle part of his body. We could clean him up in his chest floor a little bit. He's big in his foot and bone. He's got some foundation. He balances as far as his underline goes. He is just a little nicer hipped than the one in first. I need to change him just a tad in that loin hip junction when we look at him in the side, and change those hind two just ever so slightly in compared to the one in first. We get a couple goats next that to me are really good as far as pattern concerned. They've got a really good look to them. They're good heighted. They've got a good touch. They feel fine. They're not as wide made. They're not as stout. They don't have as much muscle. I give the advantage to the one in third, being just a little bit nicer as far as his touch and feel. He's a little bit wider in his loin, a little bit deeper in his loin, especially in the back part of the loin. I really like this one as far as the way he looks in his hip. He's level out through his hip. He hits the ground nice when on his rear leg. He's a little finer featured than the one in front of him. Doesn't hold together quite as well in that loin. The next one that's a little bolder, a little wider, gets a little bit forward in his shoulder, a little doesn't transition from shoulder to his forerib, especially in the lower 1/3, quite as well as the four in front of him. Not quite the balance and design from the side, especially when we put him in motion. We'd like to move him on out and get him on up as far as his front end, make him a little bit cooler on the move, but one that has a lot of muscle, a lot of shape, and a lot of carcass attributes. Really, really a good class. Again, we've talked to these others. Let's give them all a round of applause for their efforts in this class.
Results of Class 7. In 8th place, Jared Stearns, Edgemont, South Dakota. 7th place, Kara Riffle, Westmoreland, Kansas. In 6th place, Matthew Sinclair, Wellington, Colorado. In 5th place,
Piper Liska, Yuma, Arizona. Fourth place, Emma Latham, Dalhart, Texas. Third place, J.C. Meckelberg from Eckley, Colorado. Second place, Ava Schroyer from DeGraff, Ohio. And the winner of class number 7 is Turner Matkin from Bohm, Texas. Now in is class number 8. This is the last class of medium weights. Upon completion of this class, we will bring back the first and seconds of all the medium weight classes for champion and reserve medium weight. Sullivan Supply Stock Show University is trusted by champions nationwide. Thanks to them, all of the livestock shows are webcasted live through nationalwestern.com, and they sponsor our Livestock Media Scholar Program. Sullivan Supply, the innovative leader in livestock grooming supplies. Ladies and gentlemen, the National Western is excited that we are starting a new tradition around the National Western Junior Market Goat Show. Tomorrow, Thursday, January 17th, the Grand and Reserve Grand Champion goats will go on display at the prestigious Denver Athletic Club. Similar to how the champion steers get displayed at the Brown Palace, the National Western Stock Show and the Denver Athletic Club look forward to this new tradition and creating Denver history together. and gentlemen, just so you know, tack releases you can get right here at in the announcer's box. Back table behind me. There's somebody there available to sign out for tack releases. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a chance to watch the renowned Andes livestock grooming educator, Kirk Steerwalt, demonstrate cattle fitting in the Beef Palace Auction Arena. Kirk will explain the latest techniques to get award-winning results from your Andes tools. Check your schedule for dates and times.
Real nice set of goats here. We're going to start off with a black-headed one to me that wins the class nicely. Big old forearm, a lot of foundation under this goat. Really good in his bottom 1/3 of his body cavity. And you get over top of him, and he meets you with the freshest, biggest top. Really nice in that loin, really nice from that loin to that hip. Tremendous amount of leg muscles. He comes back. I like him on his feet and legs. Every so often he gets a little stretched out and it takes away from his balance. But I think when you put him on move and then you park him, I think he balances out as nice as any of them. The one in second maybe just a little bit cooler as far as that lower rib and that chest floor than the one in first. However, he doesn't transition down his top quite as smooth and quite as fresh, especially we get into that loin and that hip, one that's got a tremendous amount of leg muscle. I'd like to level him out just a little bit, make him just a little smoother in that loin hip junction to be able to compete with the first one. But two that are really, really nice as far as having a lot of horsepower, a lot of muscle, and some good characteristics as far as touch and balance. The next one, I think, of the three remaining balances out the nicest. Really like him from his underline and top line and the way he balances. One that's really leveled down his hip. He's not as bold in his rib as the first two. He's not quite as quite as muscular in his leg as the two above him either. But one that is smooth through his loin and probably smoother than our second place goat. Maybe not quite the delineation of muscle that our second place goat has. The next one doesn't balance quite as well as the one that precedes him, but he handles really nice as far as firmness and freshness when you appreciate it the last rib, one that gives up just a little bit when you get back into that loin and hip and leg in comparison to the top three. But we like the length of body. We like the transitions from shoulder to rib. We like the expression of muscle this one has in his rib. We need to make him bolder on out through his skeleton, through the last 1/3 of his skeleton, move him up any further and maybe balance him a little bit better. Next one, a tremendous amount of width, one that doesn't have quite the touch and tone that the four above it have. The really, really nice as far as loin shape. When we look at the hip, we're not quite as neat as far as the hip. When we put this one on the move, I'd like to see him a little nicer on his rear too. He doesn't come down quite as square and neat, doesn't handle them quite as well as the goats in front of him. Really a nice set again. Again, these kids have done an excellent job. We've talked to them about what we change about their goats. Really good set of kids. Let's give them a round of applause for their efforts in this class.
Results of Class 8. In 8th place, Allison Hocker from Loveland, Colorado. In 7th place, Faith Eckler from Gibson, Colorado. In 6th place, Paige Pence, New Carlisle, Ohio. 5th place, Abigail Tingle, Shelbyville, Kentucky. In 4th place, Sadie Heap, Frederick, Oklahoma. 3rd place, Bennett Gordon, Whitewood, South Dakota. In 2nd place, Jada Schroyer, DeGraff, Ohio. And the winner of Class 8 is Shandy Treadwell, Deming, New Mexico. Now in are the first and second place winners of Class 5, 6, 7, and 8 for the selection of champion and reserve champion medium weight. We've had a cell phone turned in that was lost in the women's bathroom. We have a cell phone that was turned in up here at the announcer's table that was lost at the women's bathroom. So if you've lost a cell phone and can identify it, come on up and you can have it back. Again, we're going to take a short break, a very short break, at the completion of the champion and reserve champion selection. Then we'll start into the heavyweights. John Deere is the official agricultural and turf equipment provider of the National Western Stock Show. Visit your local John Deere dealer for great deals now, and remember, nothing runs like a Deere.
Well, this has been an extremely competitive middleweight division. I think that these kids have done an excellent job. I really am pleased with my first and seconds out here for our champion and reserve. Can't go on enough about the quality of goats that was in this division and that was in these classes. I think when you get down to your champion and reserve of this division, it comes down to two. I think there's a lot of things about both of them that I'd change, or not a lot of things. There's a few things about both of them I'd change, but I think when you check your boxes and you look at the one that you don't change, or you change the least amount of things about, you look at him on the move, you look at his structure, you look at his skeleton, you look the way he holds together on the move, you look at the way he holds together when you park him. I think there's one that to me, if you turned him loose, would come to the top of this group, and that'll be your champion. I think there's one that's going to go right behind him that's probably a little bigger in his loin, probably has just a tad more total width to him, but I think when you look at weight and you look at balance and you look at everything put together, maybe not that much difference, or a minute difference in comparison to them. Really good set. I think they balance out nice. I think they're goats that fit this division well as far as being middleweights and being ready to go to market and ready to cut open. Look forward to doing the heavyweights. I'm going to go shake the hand of your individual with your champion, then reserve champion out of this division. Again, it's been an excellent division. Not only these kids out here, but all the kids that showed in this division deserve a round of applause for their efforts here.
Results of in the middleweight division. Your reserve champion is Turner Macon, and your champion goes to Hayden Schroeder. Congratulations to all. Well done. Again, ladies and gentlemen, there was a phone turned in that was lost in the women's restroom. It is here at the announcer stand. If you've lost a phone and can identify it, we will be more than happy to give it back to you. Thank you. Next in the ring will be class number 9, the first class of the heavyweight division. Class number 9, the first class of the heavyweight division. Be the next in the ring. Entering the ring at this time is class number 9, the first class of heavyweight market goats. Class number 9 entering the ring at this time. Richard Saunders said, with enough time and money, anybody can build a building. The question is, how much more can Saunders provide? Saunders Construction is one of Colorado's largest commercial contractors and is proud to present the National Western Premier Exhibitor Program. As a manufacturer of premium quality livestock show supplies, Weaver Leather Livestock is a proud sponsor of the 2019 National Western Stock Show. Be sure to stop by ProFit Show Supply, our Weaver Leather Livestock dealer, on the hill and in the stadium arena. Weaver wishes all exhibitors good luck at the show.
Well, a nice class. I think when we put our these three up here and we start handling and really analyzing them, the one comes to the top pretty nicely. I think he's the combination of form and function, one that moves around nicely, looks nice from the side, balances out well. But more importantly, one that when you get over top of him, he handles a little fresher than the one in second. He handles a little firmer and a little bit better in his hide and in his thinness of hide and the way he touches than the one in third. He's cooler in the way he's made from his shoulder to his rib than the one in second. He's neater as far as his freshness in his top. He's neater as far as his profile than the one in second. So I think that he comes to the top on those things. Could we make him a little bigger butted? Yeah, he could have a little more leg muscle in comparison to the next two. Could he be a tad wider in the lower part of his body? Yeah, he's not quite as wide as the next two. But I think when you handle him and you look at the handling attributes along with that pattern profile and look, you look at the way his skeleton's put together and his neck's on top of his shoulder, I think he wins the class nicely. The one in second, when I first looked at him, I thought would be one to beat when he first came in the ring, one that I really appreciate the length of body. I appreciate the smoothness of transitions throughout his top, one that really is nice as far as body shape. He's really wide coming at you. But when you get on this guy and you really start handling him, he's a little staler handling. He's not quite as fresh. Maybe just a little past prime is what I would say. But when you appreciate those things about, he's not quite as balanced on the move as the one that wins. He's not quite as fresh handling in today. That's why he stands second. The one in third bolds up better than any of them as far as coming at you wide and having a big forearm, having a tremendous amount of power in him. He's not quite as good in his transitions from his shoulder to his forerib, especially when you look at his blade in the top of that forerib. When you look at him, he doesn't transition in his loin to his hip quite as well as the first two. Now, when you handle him at his last rib, he's the widest of the top three. When you look at his leg muscle and his twist depth, he is the deepest in his twist and the biggest legged. If we can make this one a little bit cooler about his front, we can make him a little bit cleaner about his hide and more paper-thin hided. This one can win the class, but one that I just need to change in those areas to move up any further. Next one handles real good, a real good cutability goat. Good job. One that gets a little weak on his rear pasterns, doesn't have quite the look on the move, doesn't want to quite cooperate with the young lady when it's walking, so it's hard to tell its balance and symmetry. But when we look at it even parked, he's not as symmetrical as the ones in front of him today. We need to give this one just a little more muscle, give him just a little more balance and symmetry to move him up. Next one in fifth's much the same way, a very hard muscled goat, one that's got a big old groove down his top, one that's wide coming at you. He doesn't balance out quite as well from front to rear flank. He doesn't move quite as well in motion. His skeleton doesn't hold together from front to rear quite as nicely and as presentable as the ones in front of him, but one that's hard muscled, really good tone, really good amount of muscle, especially when we look in that loin and leg. Just need to soften him up a little bit, balance him out, and make him more symmetrical. Again, I talk to these youth about their goats. Some of them have a lot of muscle. We're getting to get into some goats, or starting to get into some goats that have a little more, they're getting stale and maybe a little past prime, but really, really a nice set of heavyweight goats. Let's give these kids a round of applause for a nice job.
Results of Class 9. In 8th place, Emma Gonzalez, Carpenter, Wyoming. 7th place, Faith Eichler, Gibson, Colorado. In 6th place, Colt Walker, Frederick, Oklahoma. In 5th place, Peyton McCarty, Roswell, New Mexico. In 4th place, Maggie McDonald, Magnolia, Arizona. In 3rd place, Chase Taylor, Shoshone, Wyoming. 2nd place goes to Matthew Sinclair, Wellington, Colorado. And the winner of Class 9 is Carly Wheeler, Paso Robles, California. Next in is Class number 10. Class number 10 coming in the ring. Entering the ring at this time is class number 10 of the heavyweight market goats. Class 10. Ready to try a delicious change? Serve your family American lamb from Superior Farms. There are so many ways to enjoy lamb with the easy recipes found at superiorfarms.com. Again, ladies and gentlemen, there's been a phone turned in to the announcer stand. It was found in the women's restroom. There's been a phone turned in. So if you've lost a phone and you can identify it, come on up here. We'd be more than happy to give it back. If you're looking for the edge in the show ring, consider the new Blue Ribbon Super Blocking Blade from Andis. Designed for competition with cattle fitting expert Kirk Steerwalt, the Andis Blue Ribbon Super Blocking Blade delivers a new level of performance with improved hair feed and clean show-stopping lines. Stop by your authorized Andis dealer and see it today.
Well, a nice set of goats. I think the top two come to the top relatively easy for me when you talk about their handling attributes. There is some differences in them, especially when we look at them from the side. But when we look at the one that wins it, I think he's just a little bolder made. He's has a little more heart girth in him, a little bigger forearm, a little stouter in that lower 1/3 of his skeleton. He's really big on top side of his skeleton, really wide, really blends together nicely from his shoulder and rib to have that much muscle and that much rib shape, and then comes out through his loin real nice. There's times when I look at his rear hip and leg, especially when we put him in motion, he almost has a little bit of roundness to it. I'd like to change that. That's what I like about the one in second a little better. But I think there's a bigger difference in those other areas than there is in that area. When we look at the one in second, this one really feels good down his top. Really nice as far as that last rib's concerned. He's not as pulled apart in his rib. He's sure not as pulled apart in his hip. When we get back to his hip and pin setting, he gets just a little narrower, gets a little higher in his twist. Not quite the look when we get it 3/4 and right behind him that I'd like to see, but one that you look at his front 1/3, tremendous as far as the way he's put together in his shoulder and rib, tremendous as far as from his rack to his loin. We just need to give him a little more hip shape and a little more dimension. When we get to the next one that really handles nice as far as rack shape, really comes up and meets you. He gets a little rougher from his loin to his hip. He probably has a little more leg muscle than the one in second, but he's not as unique and cool about his front end and the way he transitions in his front end. He's not as balanced from the side when we really look at the balance aspect, and not as smooth in that loin edge. One that's a little smoother in the loin edge, one that's probably the smallest or is the smallest of the top 5. We really like some features about this one, but one that just gets out horsed. When we really start analyzing him, he has some bone, he has some width, he has a good touch to him. He's not quite as full in his loin as the ones above him. He's not as pulled apart in his skeleton, and he just doesn't have the total muscle that the ones in front of him have. We get to the next one that's a little bit rawer handling. Excuse me. One that's maybe a little more refined in his bone work than the ones that are directly in front of him. But when we appreciate the carcass attributes, this one brings really hard muscle to high cutability goat that should really come out with a good carcass. When we look at the next ones, when we look at the next ones, we're starting to get in some goats. Next goat I'd see a little straight in his hock. I don't like the way he moves off his hind two. We get a goat that shortens up in his body, getting a little bit staler. And then we start getting in some goats that maybe don't have the width for their weight. I'd like to see them a little more power, especially coming out through their hips and in their legs. But really a tremendous set of goats in this class. Again, these kids have worked hard all year for this project. Let's give them a round of applause for their efforts.
Thank you, sir. Results of Class 10. In 8th place, Madison Morris, Yuma, Arizona. In 7th place, Matthew Sinclair, Wellington, Colorado. In 6th place, Madison Morris, Yuma, Arizona. In 5th place, Peyton McCarty, Roswell, New Mexico. In 4th place, Abigail Steek, Rom, North Dakota. In 3rd place, Becca Plain, Hutchinson, Kansas. 2nd place goes to Jonah Stottlemyre, Luther, Oklahoma, and the winner of Class 10 is Paige Pence, New Carlisle, Ohio. Entering the ring is Class 11 in the heavyweight division. Class 11 entering the ring. John Deere is the official agricultural and turf equipment provider of the National Western Stock Show. Visit your local John Deere dealer for great deals now, and remember, nothing runs like a Deere. Richard Saunders said, with enough time and money, anybody can build a building. The question is, how much more can Saunders Construction provide? Saunders Construction is one of Colorado's largest commercial contractors and is proud to present the National Western Premier Exhibitor Program.
We're going to start off with a goat to me that's a combination goat in the class. Maybe you have goats here that may be bigger top, maybe bigger butted, maybe even when you watch him walk off their rear legs, one maybe that walks off his rear legs just a little bit better when we look at our top 5. But when you put your hands on this guy and you really start analyzing his build and the basic build he has, he's really built nice from the ground up. He's big in his rib. He's really nice in his loin. He's real good in his loin hip transition. He's bigger at the last rib. He's bigger in the middle portion of his body and wider coming at me than the goat in second. He's wider in his pins than the goat in second. He's not quite as good off his hind two. At times I see him walking. He gets just a little camped under. I'd like to maybe make him stride out just a little different on those hind two in comparison to the one in second. But I think that's getting real critical on one that balances out real nice and comes together real nice. When we look at our second one, that's where his best part is when we put him on the move. I really like the way this one blends together. I like his balance and symmetry. Really nice as far as his lines are concerned. He's good in comparison to our first place. He's not quite as good in his loin, not quite as good from his knee to his hip, and not quite as wide out to his pins. He's really fresh handling in his rib and rack. I like him a little better out through his hip than I do the 1 1/3. I like him off his hand too better than the 1 1/3, and I think he's a little bit neater about the way his shoulder ties in than the 1 1/3. Now the 1 1/3, when you talk about knowing to grab something, when you grab something, this one is another. He's really big in the middle portion of his body. He's really big-legged. He gets just a tad mad between his rear hocks. He gets off in his hip. I'd like to